If you can save one person, you can save the world. That is what we are looking for.
I think that's a big part of why Rwanda is thriving, because they've made the choice to move forward from the mistakes of the past.
It's a very hard ask for genocide survivors to forgive.
Welcome back to Being Jewish 30-Minute Mensches. Same vibe, same tribe, shorter episodes. Back in spring of 2009, I was 9 months into my first post-college Hollywood job as a driver, where I'd pick up TV showrunner Greg Daniels from his house, drive him to The Office, where they shoot The Office. Then I'd sit around doing nothing until he was ready for me to drive him to the CBS lot, where he was helping set up Parks and Recreation. I'd sit around there for the rest of the day doing nothing, and then I would drive him home. I was basically Waymo with a desk. And before I blew my totally underutilized Ivy League brains out, I quit and decided to do the opposite of sitting in an office doing nothing. I went to volunteer in Africa. I spent a life-changing month in Rwanda at a magical place called the Agahozo-Shalom Youth Village, a holistic boarding school-style community founded in 2008 to care for orphan survivors of the Rwandan Genocide and other vulnerable and traumatized teens, and prepare them for a dignified and successful adult life. Built upon Jewish principles like Tikkun Olam and Tikkun Ha Lev, ASYV, as it's known, is a beacon of light and hope in Rwanda's future. And today I am so happy to have the village's executive director with me as my guest. Please welcome my inshuti, my friend, Jean-Claude and Nkulikiyimfura. Jean-Claude, JC, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, John, on the show. And too bad I missed you in 2009, because I came probably 2 years later.
You got there just slightly after me, but you've been there a long time. How many years have you been with ASYV now?
14 years now.
So, as I mentioned, Tikkun Olam and Tikkun Ha Lev, these are literally foundational philosophies of ASYV. So tell me a little bit about where those Jewish attributes came from and what they mean to the community.
I mean, it's a beautiful long story. First of all, this village, Anne Heyman, the founder of Agahozo-Shalom, heard about the genocide against the Tutsi in 2005, and she was like, what's going on? How come I haven't heard about it? What can we do? So she flew to Rwanda in 2006, saw that nobody was doing anything close to a youth village. So she thought a youth village would be the best way to address those challenges that young orphans have been faced with after the genocide against the Tutsi. And so she looked at different models in Israel called Yemen Old Youth Village, and she wrote to the then director of the village, I'm an American trying to build a youth village in Africa. How can you help? And this gentleman, Dr. Chaim Perry, wrote her a very long email saying how they could help with a lot of the Ethiopian Jews who would really be able to help us. I think one of the impulse was there are great Jewish values that nobody knows outside of the Jewish realm.
Tikkun Olam and Tikkun Ha Lev, how do those two philosophies, what do they mean to you, and how do they manifest within the day-to-day life of the village?
We want to be the next best possible family that the children should have had their own families been alive. So it's really, we try to recreate some type of trustworthy representation of parental wholeness. And so that's the whole philosophy. And as a parent, you love your children, you take care of your children. And so the community does the caring for the children who have lost parents, whose parents are no longer there, or who are unable to support their own children. You will see that we have surrogate mothers, and incredibly, these mothers have lost husbands, they have lost their children during the genocide, and now they're coming to raise other people's children. In addition, we have programs. Programs are really on a learn by doing basis. These programs are in sports, music, theater, science, you name it, we have more than a dozen program and practical skills, very, very, very hands-on skills, and they get to build their own trust and self-confidence. And once they have all that, they go and apply this in school. And all of our kids, young people, more than 70% would have never, ever completed high school, but we transition them outside of high school into colleges, beyond college, into jobs, and internship program, and so on. And this is something we've done for the past almost 18 years, and we're extremely proud of the work we have done.
Well, speaking of the college acceptance rate and graduation and getting jobs and everything, you guys just did a 2-year study with Tulane University School of Public Health on the impact and effectiveness of the village. And the results of the study are literally off the charts, comparing the outcomes a student from ASYV achieves versus a control group. Can you talk to me a little bit about those findings and what they saw and how it felt to see, the proof of your concept being so successful?
Almost 70% of our young people got into employment. The control group was half of that. We had 68 versus 38%. The social economic scale was also more than double. They earned a salary that is pretty much double or more. They were doing extremely much better emotionally, psychosocially, being able to start families.
It's amazing. And I also saw, they had certain employers compare the success of an Agahozo-Shalom graduate's work at a place of employment versus somebody else in the same position at the same place. And again, the ASYV graduate, the numbers are, double in terms of how much they're excelling, their communication skills, their abilities. It really is an unbelievable proof of concept for what's going on there, that you're not just, helping people vocationally, not just helping people educationally, but holistically, really building up incredible young adult people to go out into the world.
Absolutely. That's the key word, very, very holistically. And I think when people talk about scale, most people talk about scaling wide, and we talk about scaling deep. We really, really, really invest in a young person, because if you can save one person, you can save the world. And so that is what we are looking for. We know that all of our young people, they have an incredible impact into not only their families, but the community and actually the country. Today, we have a lot of young people who are into the business world that are doing quite well. They are into government, they are into private sector, they are into NGOs. And so those are all great outcomes, and they're able to influence a lot into their own community.
I was going to ask you, are there any particularly inspiring success stories or students who, really went above and beyond once graduating?
We have some who have become medical doctors. We have some who were head of corporate banking and left it to start their own companies. We have some who are into the tourism sector. All this is just incredible.
You mentioned scale, and I love talking about scaling deep. I think that's so cool. But in another context, the conclusion of this study was basically, hey, ASYV, you should scale what you're doing because everybody needs to learn from this model because it is so successful. So is that something that you all have thought about at all, approaching? I know you have your mandate to take care of your village, but is there any thought to, okay, how do we now take this model and share it with the world?
We believe we are a center of excellence. We believe we are sort of like a school lab. We try things out. If it works, we are ready to share it. And so one of the things we've done was right after COVID, we worked with the Ministry of Education to train teachers across the country in over 170 schools. And we trained teachers for 3 years on how do you teach young people. And this was a program funded by the MasterCard Foundation. And so this is kind of how we believe about scaling, using our model to share it with our other organizations. And so we want to use some of our own model and approach to do a program with them for the next 10 years. And that's also something that is being funded by MasterCard Foundation. We're at the beginning phase. We are having this conversation, but we think that we are really well placed to be able to do that. And that's how we believe about scale. That's what we believe about scale.
Fantastic. Fantastic. The world would be a better place, that's for sure. Consistent with national trends, the study also found that male graduates have more successful outcomes than female graduates. And I know that there's sort of a cultural gender disparity between men and women that can be present in Rwanda. And one way that ASYV is trying to approach that is through partnering with an organization called the Inheritance Theater Project, who I am on the board of. And listeners of this pod will remember we had the artistic director, Jalen Livingston, on being Jewish back in December. And I'm proud to say this was a shidduch that I made between ITP and ASYV. And I would love for you to speak about the experience of having Inheritance Theater Project do their first international project with you all in Rwanda, what they did, how it went, and what the conclusion was.
The Inheritance Theater project was a fantastic one. And again, it falls within that framework of building gender equity in the village. It all starts with not the hard topics, but projects where young people get to feel good about themselves. And so this has really helped a number of our young female students. I'll give you an example. We received about 8 scholarships in 2024, 2025, and I think we're still waiting for scholarships to come in 2026. But in 2024, 25, 8 scholarships into, I would say, next to Ivy League programs. We had all scholarships were for girls, young women, and so all of these young women had also been part and parcel of the Inheritance Project. So
wow,
yes, they have, and so this is something we're extremely proud of.
What did ITP do with the students in the village? What was the program?
It was a theater literacy program. And so I always love the beginning, because when they come, they meet with the young people, they first teach them to exercise their own voices. And you see, like, young people, young girls particularly, are quite shy. So no, scream, and open yourself up. And then, they start writing their own plays. And so them coming on stage is now the thing that unlocks all of their potential. So I have a story of this young woman who was extremely shy. She wouldn't perform, and yet she wanted to. And once she joined the program, she applied to become the first female student government president.
Wow.
She did an extremely great job, was reelected the second year, which never happens. And then, she went on to graduate. And she was the first female to have ever been given a job at Agahozo-Shalom right after high school to run gender equity policy, to build it. And now today she's at Bates College doing some a major in environmental studies and also a minor, I think, in the gender studies. So, those are some of the examples that we are talking about, the impact that he has on young people.
That is so amazing. And I can't help but have my mind blown at sort of, we think, oh, what difference can one little thing or one person do? But the fact that I volunteered, made this relationship, 20 years later, make this other relationship, brings this theater group, they do an amazing program, it affects this one girl, and now she's grown into this other thing. She's affecting other people who are then going to affect other people. It's just an amazing chain that, it's just so important for us to keep in mind that what we do really matters. And every little thing can make a huge difference. And we can never predict how far that can go.
As you said, it's some of these touch points that one might not have thought about in the beginning that really unleash their own potentials.
So you were born in Burundi and you moved back to Rwanda in 95, is that right?
Yes. I was born a refugee, so I did not have a right to citizenship. Being a refugee is probably one of the worst things ever. It takes away your citizenship, it takes away your identity, and it's very, 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 very hard. And so I had my first passport after the genocide. Otherwise, I had only United Nations papers. So that's pretty much what got us to travel. So I knew that no matter what, I would go back to my own country and help to rebuild my country.
So you get there in 95 after the genocide. What did you find? What kind of country when you got there? And what are you seeing now, 30 years later?
Rwanda in 1994, after the genocide, even 95, was, by all accounts, a country that was supposed to be a failed state. This is a country that 1 million people were killed, 3 million people fled, and 3 million people displaced. That's what happened.
Wow.
Displaced in the entire country. And so you just have to bring everybody together. Huh? And then we have an exceptional leadership in our country. The president said, we are going to focus on 3 things. Just 3 things as Rwandans. Number 1, we're going to be together. We're not going to be separated. No Hutuland, no Tutsiland. We're going to be together. We're going to hold ourselves accountable. We cannot blame the West on the genocide. It's our people that kill our own people. So we hold ourselves accountable and we dream big. Today, 30 years after, Rwanda is doing way better than many, many, many sub-Saharan African countries. I will not name here, but was so much better.
In what ways? How are you seeing Rwanda thriving today?
Well, I think uplifting the poorest of the poorest. We're still a developing nation, but really trying to end poverty. I think in the past 25 years, pretty much close to 70% of people have been uplifted from extreme poverty.
Wow.
Education for all is one of the things. Universal health care for everybody. In Rwanda, if you are a Rwandan citizen, you get universal health care.
Amazing.
Yes, you only pay 10% of your bill. The policy on gender equity in government services, you have to have a minimum of 30% female in the leadership. That's constitutionally required. So the cabinet has about 50% female, 50% male. All of our government officials, 50%. We have the highest number of members of parliament in the world. I think it's female, 64% female.
Wow.
And Rwanda has taken some very bold direction, particularly in the area of environment. I think in 2008, plastics were banned in the country. So another countries are catching up today, but Rwanda did it in 2008. Access to internet is across the country. So there are so many things.
It's incredible.
And then the other thing is what made the whole difference is like in 1994, 1995, the country had to say, what are we going to do? Let's focus on our homegrown solution. Let's focus on the old values that Rwanda had 200 or 300 years ago. Let's try to bring them back up. And there is one value that I love particularly, that I co-wrote an article with one of my colleagues that went into the Jewish forward. And it's a value of Uwudehe. Uwudehe means you cannot leave the elderly behind. So if you are going to do farming, if you're going to do farm activities, if you're going to do anything, and if there is some elderly people or disabled people who cannot do it, you have to do it for them. You don't leave them behind. And that to me is something that kind of looks a little bit like Tikkun Olam.
Yeah.
It is not coincidental that Agahozo-Shalom is thriving in Rwanda.
Tell me, what does Agahozo-Shalom mean, literally?
Agahozo means drying tears, and Shalom, peace. And we are youth village. So
Beautiful.
That's our identity. That's who we are. We are a holistic organization that supports young people in the most comprehensive way, focusing on helping to mend their heart and repair the world. So Tikkun Ha Lev and Tikkun Olam.
Yeah, and you mentioned sort of these Rwandan ideals that are part of the culture. Something that has always stuck with me from my time there. When I was volunteering, there was a counselor there named Eddie. You mentioned, you guys have house mothers who make the homes feel like a home. And then you also have these counselors who are sort of like big brother, big sister mentor types that also help sort of complete that family picture. And I was speaking to Eddie, and he told me this story, how after the genocide, his neighbor came over to his house and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I'm the one that killed your grandparents. It was me. And I'm going to show you where they're buried." And Eddie, as he relayed this to me, I'm in shock. And he says, I had a decision to make. Either I could live hating this man and continue, violence or hate and destruction, or I could choose to say, you know what, I want to build a better future, and I'm going to live next to this neighbor in peace and move forward. And I was just so impacted by that story and by that sentiment. I think it's so brave to choose hope and peace and forgiveness and not rage and vengeance and anger. And I just think that's something that we can't take for granted, that the Rwandan people have made that choice on so many levels, day after day, person to person, community to community. And I think that's a big part of why Rwanda is thriving, because they've made the choice to look to the future and move forward from the mistakes of the past, rather than continue to try to reconcile them again and again and again and again.
Absolutely. I mean, we believe that it takes a lot of energy to hate, and the gains, what you get out of it is pretty much nothing.
Right.
So forgiveness, we believe that it's a very hard ask for genocide survivors to forgive. It is very hard. However, we only have one country, and we say we can forgive, but we do not have to forget. And the other thing as well is that person who said it to Eddie was also able to heal.
Right.
And we also need a healed neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and I know there's a lot of cultures who would not be able to do that. So that's something that's always impressed and left an impression on me. JC, when Anne Heyman, who we talked about, of blessed memory, who tragically died in an accident a decade or so ago, when she set out to found ASYV, it was because she had been told that the number one problem in Rwanda was the orphans, that there were, millions of orphan children with no future. And so she decided to do something about it. Looking at where Rwanda is now in 2025, what would you say is the biggest problem that still needs solving?
The issue of genocide is not something that can be solved in 30 years. About 80 years after the Holocaust, we are still crying, and we're still feeling a lot of sensitivity. And the genocide against the Tutsi is also something similar, where there has been so many consequences of it. And so we will continue to have to address some of these challenges. Our goal is to help young people to become active agents of change. We have 4 years to do that job, to transform them from a person with pain and anger and suffering to a person who is a problem solver, who is a critical thinker, who is a person of great values. That's our job. That's how we're going to help the future of this country. A country is its people. And so our goal is to support all the youth of Rwanda as much as possible in the small ways that we can. Yeah. And as Agahozo-Shalom, our goal would be to work towards a path of self-reliance, where we have a diversified source of income, so that the Agahozo-Shalom could be there long after people like me are not over there.
Tell me, just in closing, as the last thing, as we look to the future, what is the Anything is Possible campaign?
Anything is Possible campaign is, there is a story about when, I think when you were in the village, they started building an amphitheater.
Yes.
Yes. And so as they were digging, there was this young man called Claude. He said, "What are you guys doing?" They said, "Oh, we're building an amphitheater." He said, "But this looks like a pool." And then, but why would you think we would build a pool? He said, "With ASYV, anything is possible." And so this is a campaign that we have for 5 years that we would love people to support ASYV for the next 5 years to really get us to reach some of our goals of getting $20 million. So far we have raised up to $70 million.
Oh, wow.
And we need to really raise $3 more million to sort of get up off the ground a little bit. I like to say that today, if Agahozo-Shalom was a human being, she or he would be like a 21, 22 years old, straight out of college and ready to explore the world. And I think this is that sort of the push that we need. And so anything is possible. Is like we want to build upon what we have built and take this village to the next level.
That's a fantastic. I wish you nothing but the best of luck with it, JC. Keep doing what you're doing. Those kids are so lucky to have you, and so are we here at Being Jewish. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. And please come back. It's been a long time.
Too long. I know. I would love to come back. It's just a magical, magical place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, y'all. He's a mensch. It's been 30 minutes. I'm Jonah Platt. Murakoze Chana.